Hello and welcome to this week's Solution Saturday. In this video, we're going to go through question 7 from the MGS 2016 paper B. Make sure to check out the other videos in the playlist for more worked solutions for this paper, and subscribe so you don't miss out on any of our other videos. Consider this question. Groups of car enthusiasts are going to a car festival. To get to the place where the festival is happening, they have a number of different sizes of car available as follows: 2-seater sports cars, 4-seater cars, and 6-seater people carriers. In order to keep the cost down, each vehicle used on the journey is always full. The first group use 4 sports cars, 6 4-seater cars, and 2 people carriers. How many are there in the group? The most important piece of information here is that each vehicle used on the journey is always full. This means that if there are 4 sports cars used, and each sports car carries 2 people, and there are 2 people in each sports car, we can do 4 times 2 to find that there are 8 people who are using sports cars. Let's use this same method for the 4-seater cars. If there are 6 4-seater cars, and each one, used at full capacity, carries 4 people, then we know in total for the 4-seater cars there are 24 people. And lastly, the people carriers. There are 2 of those, and at full capacity, they carry 6 each. So we can do 2 times 6, which gives us 12. To find the total number of people in the group, we have to do 8 added to 24 added to 12, which gives us a final answer of 44. The second group has 76 people in it. How many 4-seater cars will they need if they take 5 sports cars and 7 people carriers? Our method for this section is going to be quite similar to the first part. First, let's figure out how many people in total used sports cars and people carriers. There were 5 sports cars, each of which carried 2 people, so for the sports cars, we have 10 people. Similarly, there were 7 people carriers, and each of which carry 6 people. So our total for the people carriers is 42. If we add these together, we get 52 people in total for the sports cars and people carriers. However, if we look back to the question, we'll notice that there are 76 people in the group altogether. To find out how many people are in the 4-seater cars, we can do 76 minus 52, which gives us 24 people in total. However, we're trying to find out how many 4-seater cars they'll use. If each 4-seater car carries 4 people, we can do 24 divided by 4 to get a final answer of 6 cars. The third group has 112 people in it. They use 8 4-seater cars and equal numbers of sports cars and people carriers. How many of each do they need? First, let's figure out how many people used 4-seater cars. Let's do 8 multiplied by 4, as there are 8 4-seater cars, which gives us 32 people in the 4-seater cars. To figure out how many people are in the sports cars and how many people are in the people carriers, let's do 112 minus 32, which gives us 80 other people in total. Now, to do the rest of this question, we're going to use the block method, which you may have learnt in class. We know that sports cars carry 2 people, so we're going to represent it with 2 blocks. We also know that people carriers carry 6 people, so we're going to represent this with 6 blocks. This is where it gets a little tricky. The blocks to the left-hand side of the line I've just drawn represent the number of people in each type of car. However, if you go back to our question, you'll notice that there are equal numbers of sports cars and people carriers. So, for the number of cars for each category, we can represent both sports cars and people carriers with 1 block, as the number of cars is equal. Let's use the blocks on the left-hand side of the line to do our calculation. If we know that 8 blocks, as there are 8 blocks in total on this side, is equal to 80 people as we calculated that for the sports cars and the people carriers there are 80 people in total, we can divide both sides of this equation by 8 to get 1 block is equal to 10. Now let's go to the right-hand side of our line. We represented the number of cars for sports cars and people carriers as 1 block each. We've calculated that 1 block is equal to 10, which means there has to be 10 sports cars and 10 people carriers. So our final answer is 10. Let's move on to the last part. In the fourth group, there are 66 people. They need twice as many sports cars as 4-seater cars, and twice as many 4-seater cars as people carriers. How many 4-seaters can they use? We're going to use the block method for this question, but the key to this question is to have all of our workings very clearly labelled. This is going to make it much easier, and it's going to make sure that we're not going to get confused. We know that we have sports cars, 4-seater cars, and people carriers. Let's go back to the information in the question. Let's label the people carriers as 1 block. There are twice as many 4-seater cars as people carriers, so let's label our 4-seater cars as 2 blocks. There are also twice as many sports cars as 4-seater cars, so let's label our sports cars as 4 blocks. This section denotes the number of cars. Make sure you write that in. Let's use all the information we've gathered to fill in the blocks for the number of people per category of car. If there are 4 blocks denoting the number of sports cars, and we know that each sports car carries 2 people, then there has to be 8 blocks for the number of people in all of the sports cars. Using the same method, if there's 2 blocks denoting how many 4-seater cars we've used, and each 4-seater car carries 2 people, there also has to be 8 blocks denoting the number of people in all of the 4-seater cars. Using the same method for the people carriers, we have 1 block for the number of people carriers, and each people carrier can carry 6 people. So we need 6 blocks for the number of people in all of the people carriers. Remember, this section is for the number of people. First, let's look at the right-hand side of our line. If we count up all of our blocks, we'll see that there are 22 in total. 22 blocks is equal to 66 people. As you'll remember in the question, we were told there are 66 people in this group. If we divide both sides of this equation by 22, we'll find out that 1 block is equal to 3. Now, let's go to the left-hand side of our line. We need to know how many 4-seaters the people use. We've used 2 blocks to say how many 4-seater cars we've used, and we know that 1 block is equal to 3. So we need to do 2 multiplied by 3 to get a final answer of 6 4-seater cars. Thank you for watching. We hope you've been able to gain valuable skills that you can apply to problems similar to this one. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to leave a comment or reach out on our other platforms. Check out the other videos in the playlist for more solutions on tricky questions from this paper.